Every time Google announces a new Pixel A series phone, I'm left curious as to just how much of that flagship Pixel experience Google has managed to cram into a device which is a lot cheaper. It's got the same chip, the same software, the same image processing, so should you just save some money and get the Pixel 8a, or is the Pixel 8 worth the extra cash? I'm Cam Bunton from Pocket-lint, and in this video, I'll tell you. The telltale signs of the Pixel 8a being the cheaper Pixel start when you first open the box. Although, even here there's a premium feel to how the phone looks and how it's been put together. It's got that classic attractive Pixel design which just looks so cool, particularly in this bay blue variant. Put them side by side and you'd be hard pushed to see which one was the most expensive, at least if you're looking at the back or at the sides. However, turn them around and you'll notice the chunkier bezels around the display. And that's one sign that you're looking at a mid-range device, not a flagship. It's a pretty standard feature of a lower cost phone, as is the material list. The Pixel 8a has a plastic back which might not be immediately visible in this footage. The matte frosted texture disguises it, but you will feel it when you pick it up. Despite that, I don't think this is a negative point at all, because as plastic phones go, this is surprisingly sturdy feeling, thanks to that chunky aluminium mid-frame, and the textured finish actually means it feels really nice in the palm. And the plus side of plastic is that if you drop it, that back isn't as likely to crack or smash as the glass back on the Pixel 8 might. It's even got a similar water and dust resistance rating to the Pixel 8, which means you can drop it in water and it'll be fine. It'll survive rain and moisture without too much trouble. Overall attention to detail and build quality is about the same on both, with there being an ever so slightly noticeable lip when you run your finger along the join between the rear panels and the metal frame. Where the Pixel 8 has a bit of an advantage is in the size and the one-handed comfort. It's a little narrower and shorter than the cheaper model, and that's something you can feel when you pick them up. It's just slightly more compact feeling despite that larger display. Look at the display specs and you might just conclude that the Pixel 8a screen is just as good as the Pixel 8's. And in some regards you wouldn't be way off. However, it's clear when you're looking at them and using them side by side that the more expensive model does have a better display experience. And there's a couple of things that really stood out. One of them that's rarely mentioned is auto brightness. When the phone switches between lighter and darker rooms or indoors and outdoors, the Pixel 8a takes longer to respond. And that's not the only thing I spotted when comparing the two displays. There's also a sense that the content on the Pixel 8 sits closer to the surface and it's cleaner and easier to see. And that's whether you're looking at it head on or at different angles. And if you do look at them both from an angle, there's rainbow pink and green tinting starting to creep in more obviously on the Pixel 8. So yes, while both have similar resolutions, can technically reach similar peak brightnesses and peak 120Hz refresh rates, the actual visibility, the consistency and the colour reproduction are much stronger on the Pixel 8. Now, one thing that's worth noting that can be a little frustrating on both if you've become accustomed to better performance is charging speeds. Plug either into a fast charger and their 27-watt limit means the so-called rapid charging can often take an hour and a half just to completely refill a battery. That's about 3 times longer than the fastest from the likes of OnePlus or Xiaomi. You can get half a battery in about half an hour refilled, which is relatively convenient, but it's not mind-blowingly good. And to be honest, that's how I feel about the performance of both phones in general. They've both got the same brains, the Tensor G3, which isn't the most powerful processor around, but it does mean that you get smooth, reliable performance from both phones, and they can load all your favourite games and apps without struggling too much. However, compared to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 powered Android phones, there's a sense that neither tackles the more demanding games with the same ease, especially if you sit gaming for 20 or 30 minutes or more. But I suspect that for most buyers, both are completely suitable for how you would use your phone. And the fact that you get the same power in the cheaper model as the expensive one means that this isn't really an area that's a differentiating factor. And that's the same feeling I get with battery life. The capacities are very similar, and both using the same processor means the only real difference is the display power usage. The Pixel 8 can eke a little bit more from the battery in terms of everyday usage, but not by all that much. I could easily get through a full day and have somewhere between 30 or 40% left over at bedtime on both models, and that's with about 3 hours of mixed usage. Okay, so let's get to the important bit, cameras. And despite both having an ultra-wide and a main camera, there is a difference in quality primarily because the 8a has 2 sensors that aren't quite as good as the Pixel 8's. So when you shoot in the daytime, this shows itself when shooting closer objects. in that the natural depth of field and background blur isn't as strong or smooth as the depth you can achieve with the Pixel 8. And the telltale signs that the ultra-wide camera isn't as good are that the images from the lens generally look a bit rougher and darker. And it also can't focus on objects that are close to the lens, at least not as well as the ultra-wide camera can on the Pixel 8. The other telltale sign is when you go to shoot video at the highest 4K resolution at 60 frames per second, you can't switch to the 8A's ultra-wide lens, it's not an option. Pixel 8 lets you use both lenses at this quality, so you have much more focal length variety. In general though, there are similarities in the way they process colour, highlights and shadows, but there's a very real sense that the Pixel 8 processes a much wider spectrum of colours, and that the Pixel 8 sometimes look a little flatter and sometimes a tad washed out. Although both phones do crush the shadows and darker parts quite a lot, the 8A is slightly worse here. At night time, both produce very similar results and make it easy to draw in lots of light just by adjusting the timer on the night mode screen from 3 seconds up to 6 seconds. The result is pictures with lots of colour and light. Again, the ultra-wide is the lens that lets the 8A down because it just doesn't really focus, and just like the daytime shots, you can end up with out of focus elements. Now in the end, I'm left with this feeling that the Pixel 8 is very much the Goldilocks phone of the Pixel range. It gives you most of what makes the 8 Pro so good, but in a semi-affordable, smaller, compact package. Yes, it costs more than the 8A, but with its much better display and the better camera hardware, plus the more comfortable compact design and skinnier bezels, there's a real advantage to having it. And there's a very real chance that with it approaching the time for the Pixel 9 series launch, it will almost certainly be discounted in the near future. And even if it's not, I still think it's worth the extra $200 or so. Still, there's real appeal with the Pixel 8A. You get a really well designed, comfortable phone that does all the things that the Pixel 8 does, and does most of it just as well. If you can live with the poorer display and the poorer ultra-wide camera, you're still getting a lot of phone for the money. Let me know what you think of these two phones in the comments down below, or you can get me on Threads. I'm at Cam Bunton. If you did like this video, please do leave a thumbs up, subscribe and tap that notification bell, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.